Happy Tuesday, all you minties. This is the Uncanny Omar, and join me today for an advanced look at these collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these collected editions. All of these books are due out in the direct market and book market on February 8th or 9th, depending on where you get your books. So we have a couple of trades, a graphic novel, one of the little Marvelverse graphic novels rather, an epic collection, and a Marvel Masterworks. Again, I always like to put timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around as much as you want to, in case you're not interested in a particular book or title, or in case you don't want any spoilers at all. I understand and respect that. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about Moon Girl. Marvelverse Moon Girl. So this is part of their Marvelverse line. It's the smaller scale books that they serve the purpose of introducing new readers to these Marvel characters. They are cheaper though, they're $9.99, and they are also smaller scale. So here it is compared to the Mighty Marvel Masterworks, for example. So it's this exact same dimensions, not as thick as a Mighty Marvel Masterworks though. By the way, those Mighty Marvel Masterworks reviews are coming back. The whole family's coming together to talk about Doctor Strange, and then we'll probably do Hulk, and then all the other ones we miss. We miss doing them and getting together and talking about comics, but we've kind of figured out a family schedule to do it. Here it is compared to the size of an Epic collection. So it is a little bit smaller than your Epic collection as far as the dimensions. But like I mentioned, these are $9.99. They have about 100 to 112 pages. This one has 112 pages. Here are all the other characters available. And here it is, Moon Girl. Let's see what's collected in here. So we have Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #1. Obvious place to start reading about Lunella Lafayette. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur 42, 43, 46, and 47, as well as the Marvel Legacy Primer pages. So kicking it off with this particular issue right here, #1, written by Amy Reeder and also Brandon Montclair. Natasha Bustos supplying most of the artwork in here. But this is a brand new character, and if you're familiar with the character of Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur, well, it does have ties to those two characters. Something happens to Moon Boy that, well, he's taken out of commission for a little bit. There is a magical stone that can travel through time, so I will say that's kind of their quick little origin recap. But through a series of events, Lunella meets Devil Dinosaur, and together they become Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. She's a 14-year-old bright little girl. My daughter, Miss Lydia, read the first trade paperback and really liked her character. Of course, she's a bright little girl, so I can see why. Yeah, and I've only read just a handful of issues. I just read the first two that are collected in here, and I've read the War of the Realms issue before. There is a War of the Realms tie-in in here. There's also the Spider-Man meetup. I've never read that one. That one was cute, meeting the first teenage superhero from Marvel Comics. And then there is a Fantastic Four two-issue, this two-parter right here, where she gets to meet one of the other brightest minds in the Marvel Universe, and that is, of course, Dr. Reed Richards. So, it's a cute book. If you're not familiar with the character at all, I think this is a great way to catch up on who the character is and her relationship with this big dinosaur. Now, there are no extras in the back. It's just the comic book. I believe these are the primer pages, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it saddens me to talk about this one. This is Hellions, Volume 3. It saddens me because this is the final Hellions. No more after this. There is an oversized hardcover collecting all 18 issues of the run. But it's just, this was my favorite book to come out of the Dawn of X era. I was completely blown away by how amazing this was. So this collects issues 13 through 18 of Hellions. I'm not going to go too much into detail as to what happens here. The clone of Mr. Sinister is still around, trying to take over Sinister. The Hellions are still not trusting each other because there's always some kind of backstabbing going on in this particular series. Another one of its little charming qualities that I think it has. Nanny and Orphan Maker still, to me, stealing the spotlight for a lot of this. You have some creepy villains right here, these faceless villains that all worship Tarn. So there's this huge fight between them and the Hellions. I will say that this particular issue or volume really pissed me off. Not just because it ended, but what ends up happening to a couple of characters that I am not in agreement with. But hey, that's comics. If you're not arguing with the comic, then the writer's not doing their job. Speaking of writer, this is all written by Zeb Wells. The artwork in here is Steven Segovia for the most part. Roge Antonio and Zig Harlows are also the artists on the books. And there is a surprising character that appears towards the end, meaning I cannot show any of the variants because all of the variants have something to do with this particular character. The book retails for $17.99. It has 176 pages. But let me see what variants I can show or what covers I can show. All right, let's at least look at the cover. So there's 13, 14, 15. Then they give the credits to the artist at the bottom. I love the design of Orphan Maker during this run. By the way, there's a finally a confrontation with the original Hellions and Empath, and them just dogpiling on him, asking him why he's letting these people go around calling themselves the Hellions. Love that Russell Dodderman Quanon cover here. You know how long it's taken me to call her Quanon? Because forever she's Betsy Braddock and Psylocke to me. Not because I'm being disrespectful to the character, but because I've always hated that retcon, and because I'm just older, and it takes me a while to get used to things. So, this is the Quanon variant. Absolutely gorgeous. He did the same thing with Rogue and Jean Grey. Some more variants. There's the classic Joe Jusko card right there that they started making into variants. That is Todd Knock. And that is the final variant on the left that I can show, because the variant on the right I am censoring because spoilers. One of my favorite villains of all time, my favorite Avengers villain, a villain with a complicated past, future, present. Kang the Conqueror has his own miniseries. This collects all 5 issues. This is Only Myself Left to Conquer. The book retails for $15.99. It is written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. And the artwork, oh my gosh. I have gone on and on about this guy since I first found his art in the pages, what was it, of the Mech Tech book. It was a Avengers Gundam type of book. But it was the settings and the dinosaurs and the people's profiles that really stuck out to me. And I thought, that guy's going to be great. And this is Carlos Magno. The cover here is by Carlos Pacheco, though. So just try to take in this artwork and imagine it like myself, like this being in oversized hardcover format. It is freaking jaw-dropping, some of the things he's doing in here. Look at the amount of detail in his clothing, the shadows, and the folds. Oh, he is a phenomenal artist, and I don't know how quick I don't think this book was delayed, so I'm not sure how slow or quick he is. So, really quick, the premise of this is Kang the Conqueror, a young... Okay, so a little bit of a spoiler in case you don't know anything about Kang. I do have to mention this name. There's a couple names I have to mention through here. So if you don't want to know anything about Kang the Conqueror, you want to go into this blind, although it does help to know a little bit. Okay, just in case. Nathaniel Richards. So a young Nathaniel Richards finds an older Kang the Conqueror. And Kang is just beaten. He is given up on everything. And it's mainly due to his love he's had for a significant other. Now, he tells this young Nathaniel Richards that will eventually become Kang himself. He's going to train him to be better than he is. He's going to show him how to fight. He's going to show him science and mechanics and also how to avoid love. So it is really interesting. I'm going to skip a few things here. To go and read this from the perspective of somebody that probably doesn't know anything about Kang the Conqueror, and then somebody who loves Kang and the history and the complexity behind it. I didn't think anybody could do a book like this besides Kurt Busiek. So you do have all the aspects of Kang that makes him who he is. You have Rama Tut, you have the Scarlet Centurion, you have Iron Lad, you have, of course, Kang the Conqueror, Immortus. All of it is in here. And I was thinking, okay, if I were a brand new reader and I had just seen Kang in the what was the show that he appeared in, and then rumors are he's going to be in a movie, would this make any sense? So I think while it's a complex story, I think both of the writers do a really good job of introducing what makes Kang who he is. And even though it's a complex story, I really think a lot of the readers are going to get so much out of this because, holy crap, to just compile all these decades of stories and origins of this complicated character into a 5-issue miniseries, they did a hell of a job. They needed some kind of a freaking award, if not a beer, after this story was done. I think they did a great job reintroducing the character of Nathaniel Richards and what he will mean to the future, past, and present of the Marvel Universe. There are some things I think that could have been tweaked a little bit better. Some things that are still a little obscure if you're not familiar with the history, but that's okay because comics are supposed to be that way. Comics are supposed to be read so you can go, huh, that's pretty interesting. I'd like to know more about that, and go buy a comic and not go look at Wikipedia. But that's the way we were in the 80s and 90s when collecting a comic. You read something and you're like, man, this is really interesting. Why is he calling himself Nathaniel Richards? But he's also known as the Scarlet Centurion. So then you go to a comic store, you talk to the comic book guy that works behind the counter, and he's like, oh yeah, I got you, man. This is the issues you need to read and things, or at least that was my experience. Or I always wanted to become that guy if a kid ever asked me those kind of questions. Of course, nowadays we have the internet, so you really don't need anything like that. You just gotta go watch somebody on YouTube probably explain who is Kang the Conqueror. Anyway, I find it more fun to find out for yourself. But this was a hell of a lot of fun to read. As a big fan of the character, the way that the variants are collected, unfortunately, because I really love some of these variants, are on the opposite page of the standard cover. So they're in thumbnail size. So there is really nothing in the back. Again, the book retails for $15.99 and it has 120 pages. Alright, all you spine watchers, here are all the spines for the books coming out this week. Hit that like button, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and let's keep going. Before opening this book up, I do want to make one thing clear. This is my original printing. Marvel did not send me a new printing of this particular book, so I'm not going to talk about the build of it or the paper quality. I'm just going to show off the artwork and what you can expect from this particular Epic Collection. So this is Daredevil. Please do not look at the price because this is the original price. Volume 14. And this does collect issues 271 to 282 of Daredevil, annuals 5 and 6, and then material from Punisher annual 3, Incredible Hulk annual 16, and Silver Surfer annual number 3. And material is like the big chunk of those because that's the Lifeform crossover. So we kick it off with this Atlantis Attack storyline. Why is Doctor Strange wearing an eye patch? Well, go get the Sorcerer Supreme Omnibus, or the Epic Collections. I think they've gotten there already. Mark Bagley supplying Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty One Day, supplying the artwork for the main story, and then we get some Jim Lee backup artwork here. This is written by Gregory Wright. We get a little Fat Boys story in the back here, where Daredevil gets pissed at them for putting themselves in danger. Love those little kids. So this is during the Innocenti run of Daredevil. This is one of the most sought after Epic Collections coming back into print. Here's Whilce Portacio. Not only do you get Jim Lee, you get Whilce Portacio too, doing a backup story featuring some more of the little Fat Boys. That's what they call themselves. I'm not being a jerk. Mark Bagley supplying, of course, the Serpent Crown Saga story arc with Peter Sanderson, not Brandon Sanderson. And then we jump into Daredevil. This is a run that I know a lot of people have wanted in omnibus format, as well as myself. It's a run that is not finished in Epic Collections, so perhaps when they finish the Epic Collections, we will finally get an Omni. It is rightly, I think, deserves one. I will say, as a warning though, if you've never read it, maybe check it out digitally or check out the Epic Collections in case they do have an omnibus one day, because I'll be honest, I said this on my Saturday streams. I had no idea about the division of Innocenti's run on Daredevil. I was just under the understanding that everybody liked it, like I did. I thought it was great. I love the inclusion of all these obscure characters in here. I love the fact that it doesn't take itself too seriously. It was a lot more lighthearted, even though we're about to get into a dark saga here in a little bit, than Frank Miller's run. And I think that was the problem. The same people that don't like Mark Waid's run tend to not like Innocenti's run because it's so different than everything that came before it or after this run. So maybe check it out, at least in Epic Collection. I think it's a great run. You have artwork in here by John Romita Jr. You have new characters. Here he meets Brandy at number 9, who's a complete hottie, but she's supposed to be. But I love Brandy. Oh, man, and then... never mind. There's Shotgun. Yes, a guy with a shotgun that calls himself Shotgun, who's hired to take back number 9. There's an Acts of Vengeance crossover here where Doctor Doom sends Ultron to go and kill Daredevil, but Ultron ends up crushing on number 9 instead. And I love the way John Romita Jr., he draws Ultron. Just a big old chunky robot. I love the way that he draws him. I think this is some of my favorite Romita Jr. artwork. And he's another guy that people are divided on whether they like him or not. The Inhumans show up for absolutely no reason. There's a Gorgon and a Karnak nude fight scene when they're training. If you're into that sort of thing. And by that sort of thing, I mean Inhumans fighting. Rick Leonardi supplying some of the fill-in art here. And then you get this saga right here, which is the Heart of Darkness with Mephisto and Blackheart. And this is a freaking weird story that even as a kid I thought, what the hell? Hey, this is what I was just talking about right here. Look at that. Fan service, baby. For everybody. Everybody naked. But anyway, this is a weird story about hell, heaven, and traveling there. It is really interesting. It's a lot different than probably some of the other stories that people have read from Daredevil. And I think most people probably go back to this particular story as one of the weirdest stories for Daredevil. I happen to enjoy it, and I thought that ending was beautifully done. Brings a tear to my eye even thinking about it. Now, the book retails, the new printing retails for $44.99. It has 488 pages. This is the Lifeform crossover right here with the Punisher, the Incredible Hulk, and then there's the Daredevil. Now, the Daredevil annual is all intact. You get the Typhoid Mary story back here, and then you have the Silver Surfer and Incredible Hulk parts of Lifeform. And it has 488 pages. As far as the extras in the back, not very many. Just the year in review, 1990, a little bit about the Lifeform story arc, and then some original pages. Now, let's get to the last book. Last, but in no way least, The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 23, Marvel Masterworks. 23 volumes of the Arachnite. Wow, that's crazy. For anybody that's been collecting these since Volume 1, Amazing Spider-Man was the very first Marvel Masterworks all the way in the 80s. Man, getting this... I think we get, 1 or 2 Spidey a year? Anybody that collects Omnis or Epics that are like, I can't believe we only have 6 Spider-Man Omni. What's Marvel thinking? We only get 2 Epics a year. The Marvel Masterworks guys are like, look, I'm 70 years old, man. We only get 1 freaking Marvel Masterworks a year featuring my favorite character. So calm the hell down. Those guys are real troopers if they're sticking with this line and not moving over to the Epics or moving over to the Omnis. So this book retails for $100. It's a big book, though. It's 472 pages. And I say big in comparison to other Marvel Masterworks. You have an introduction here from Roger Stern. It is fun to read. I will say do not read this if you've never read any of these stories because he goes into detail and spoilers. It's long, in-depth introduction breaking down the issues and what he was doing behind the scenes, how these issues came to be. Sadly, leaving the book. But this does collect Amazing Spider-Man 238 to 251, annual number 17. It also includes Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man 85, which features the Hobgoblin, which is why he ended up writing it and why it's included in here. And the official Marvel tryout book. That is crazy that that's included in here. I'm glad it's included. You have artwork in here, again from John Romita Jr., but this is a different John Romita Jr. This is years before his run in Innocenti's Daredevil. So the big thing to take away from this, though, is the introduction of a brand new villain that will forever shake Spider-Man to the core, and that is this guy right here, the Hobgoblin. Looks a little bit like the Green Goblin, and there's a huge mystery as to who he is. And nobody knew who he was. Spider-Man didn't know who he was. The readers didn't know who he was. If you read the introduction, hell, even Roger Stern didn't know who he was until he got a little bit into the story and decided, oh, that makes sense. This guy's the Hobgoblin. So the Hobgoblin saga starts right here. For those of you that have been following my channel for a long time, you know how much I love this run. This is my favorite. Like, to me, this is the best omnibus for Spider-Man. Of course, the McFarlane one speaks, you know, to my heart and soul as far as artwork, but the storytelling I thought just was perfected here. This was a fan of Spider-Man that got to write Spider-Man for a living, and it shows. So we were very blessed that not only was he a fan, but he was a damn good writer, still a damn good writer. He loves the Vulture. Like, that was his villain to use, the freaking Vulture. There is an issue in here that is drawn by John Romita Jr., but the finishes are done by John Romita Sr. That's beautiful, father and son working together. I love when that happens. You get a lot more of Mary Jane in here. Felicia, the Black Cat, comes into his life some more in these particular issues. More so in the Spectacular Spider-Man issues. But, oh yes, as far as the revelation as to the Hobgoblin is, well, not in this volume. Maybe in the next one. There's a lot of fake outs in this particular volume. Oh, and for those people that have been following my channel, you know what I'm going to talk about because this leads into the Thunderball fight. And of course, I'm going to be talking about. So right here, the kid who collects Spider-Man, to me, is just top 10 favorite comic books of all time. The comic that defines, one of the comics that defines who I am. I will always treasure this book and the meaning of it. And it doesn't happen until, you know, halfway through the book right here. But this right here, that is one of the most beautiful stories I've ever read in superhero comics. Breaks my damn heart. So let's look at some hot Felicia Hardy artwork instead. Here's annual number 17. This is the Heroes and Villains storyline here. I've always been a big fan of this piece of art right there. Actually, their issues 249, 250. I thought 250 had an awesome cover as well. Love the way that looks. And then, of course, Uncle Raj ends up leaving the book with endings, and Tom DeFalco steps in. And Tom DeFalco has help from Ron Frenz. Klaus Janssen's still doing the finishes with this particular issue right here. So even though the plot is by Roger Stern, Tom DeFalco writes the dialogue and then eventually takes over the book. And all of this leads into Secret Wars. So Spider-Man's going to go through a costume change in the next volume. That's freaking nuts that the Marvel Masterworks are not going to feature the black suit. As far as the extras in the back, okay, no, before the extras, let's talk about this thing. I love this. So the official Marvel Tryouts book. So this is like your average comic book, except they let you finish it out. So it starts with like 3, I think, pages, like regular pages, and then you get to color the pages. So they kind of break down on how to color, the colorist techniques at Marvel Comics, what they do, and then the inking. So the next step is to ink the pages. Of course, I don't imagine very many people doing this with the Marvel Masterworks. By all means, please let me know in the comments down below if you are that fool. The lettering, so you could letter each of the dialogue bubbles here, and here's the script. I think when these came out, I want to say they were big, like the size. This book was the size of what the art board looks like, what comic book pages look like. Then the plot. I think at one point they just give you like blank pages and they were like, yeah, they just write whatever you want. Yeah, or no, you get to draw, sorry. And then the extras in the back. This is a promotional flyer for the tryout book, ads. I wonder if anybody ever won those. John Romita Jr., these are the character sketches and model sheets for the Hobgoblin. That's an awesome one by John Romita Sr. I like the way he looks. Looks menacing. Original artwork. Handbook guide to the Marvel Universe. So there's all kinds of extras in this. Like I mentioned, it is 472 pages. These are the reprints right here from Marvel Tales, but those are just the covers. But this is some of the best Spider-Man comics ever. And now they are out. No, that's Brian Boland. Now they are out in Marvel Masterworks format. Here's all the bios in the back of all the writers and artists that helped put the book together. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and the page count of each of these collected editions. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're going to get. Are you still a fan of the Marvel Masterworks and you haven't upgraded to the Omnibus all these years when the Uncle Raj Spider-Man Omnibus came out, you decided to stick it with the Marvel Masterworks? Are you getting the Epic reprints? Remember, I always like to stress the fact that the Epic reprints always have a smaller print run. So if you're wanting to get it, I would at least try to do it within the first week or so. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Smash that like button, ring that bell for notifications, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, check out our Patreon and our spread shop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, all of you, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.